The morning sun cast golden rays across Kensington Palace as Princess Kate stood before her mirror, adjusting the delicate pearl earrings that once belonged to Princess Diana. Her reflection showed a woman who had grown from a shy university student into one of the most photographed people in the world. Today was different from other royal engagements. Today, the entire royal family would gather at Westminster Abbey for the coronation anniversary celebration, an event that happened only once every 25 years. Prince William appeared behind her, already dressed in his formal military uniform. The deep blue fabric was adorned with medals that told the story of his service to the crown and country. His presence filled the room with the quiet confidence that had made him a beloved future king. Kate turned to face her husband, and they shared a moment of understanding. This day would be remembered in history books, and their children would be part of that history. Down the hallway, the sounds of excited chatter echoed from the children's rooms. Prince George, now a young man of 11, was struggling with his tie, while Princess Charlotte, 9 years old, twirled in front of her mirror in a beautiful blue dress that matched her mother's elegant outfit. Little Prince Louis, 6 years old, was bouncing on his bed, completely oblivious to the importance of the day but thrilled by all the excitement around him. Kate walked to George's room first, her heels clicking softly on the polished wooden floors. She found her eldest son standing in front of his wardrobe, looking frustrated. The young prince had inherited his father's sense of duty, but sometimes felt overwhelmed by the weight of expectations. Kate knelt down to his level, something she had always done to make her children feel heard and understood. "Remember what we talked about, George," she said gently, fixing his tie with practiced hands. "Today is about celebrating our family's history and the people of Britain. You don't have to be perfect. You just have to be yourself." George nodded, his shoulders relaxing as his mother's words sank in. The pressure of being third in line to the throne was something no child should have to carry. But Kate and William had worked hard to give their children as normal a childhood as possible. Charlotte appeared in the doorway, her hair perfectly styled in soft curls that framed her face. She had always been the most confident of the 3 children, with a natural grace that reminded everyone of her late grandmother, Princess Diana. "Mommy, will there be lots of people watching us today?" she asked, her eyes sparkling with curiosity rather than nervousness. Kate smiled at her daughter's fearless spirit. "Yes, darling, there will be many people. But remember, they're there because they love our family and want to celebrate with us. We're representing something much bigger than ourselves today." Charlotte nodded seriously, understanding more than most children her age about the responsibility that came with her royal title. The family gathered in the main hallway of their apartment, where Prince William was having a quiet word with Louis. The youngest prince was known for his playful nature and had a tendency to make faces during serious ceremonies, something that always delighted the public but sometimes worried his parents. William was explaining in simple terms what would happen during the ceremony and why it was important to behave properly. As they prepared to leave for Westminster Abbey, Kate took one final look at her family. William stood tall and proud, every inch the future king. George had found his composure and looked remarkably mature for his age. Charlotte was practically glowing with excitement, and even Louis seemed to understand that today was special. They were ready to make their grand entrance into one of the most important days in recent royal history. The morning air was crisp as they stepped outside, where their convoy of cars waited with engines running and security details in position. Today would be a day that the British people would remember forever, and the Wales family was prepared to give them a ceremony worthy of the crown. The royal convoy moved through the streets of London like a carefully choreographed dance. Inside the lead vehicle, Prince William and Princess Kate sat with their children, watching as crowds of people lined the streets despite the early hour. Many had been camping overnight just to catch a glimpse of the royal family on this historic day. Red, white, and blue flags waved from windows and lampposts, creating a sea of patriotic color that stretched as far as the eye could see. Princess Charlotte pressed her face to the window, waving enthusiastically at the crowds who cheered when they spotted her. Her genuine joy was infectious, and even Prince George, who had been nervous just an hour earlier, found himself smiling and waving back at the people who had come to celebrate with them. Little Prince Louis bounced in his seat, pointing excitedly at the decorations and asking his parents endless questions about why there were so many people. Kate watched her children with pride, remembering her own first royal events and how overwhelming they had felt. She had learned over the years that the secret to handling public appearances was to focus on the people rather than the cameras. Each person in the crowd had a story, had taken time out of their day to be part of this moment, and deserved to feel acknowledged and appreciated. As they approached Westminster Abbey, the crowds grew thicker and the excitement more intense. The ancient building loomed ahead of them, its Gothic spires reaching toward the cloudy London sky. This was the same church where William and Kate had been married 14 years earlier, where kings and queens had been crowned for nearly 1,000 years, and where some of the most important moments in British history had taken place. The convoy slowed as they reached the designated drop-off point. Through the windows, they could see hundreds of photographers and camera crews from around the world, all waiting to capture their arrival. The flashing lights were already beginning, even though they hadn't stepped out of the car yet. William reached over and squeezed Kate's hand, a small gesture that spoke volumes about their partnership and mutual support. "Remember, we walk together as a family," William told his children softly. "Stay close to Mummy and me, smile at the people, and don't worry about anything else. Today is about showing the world what our family represents." His voice was calm and reassuring, the voice of a father who had learned to balance his role as a future king with his desire to protect his children. The car door opened, and the roar of the crowd immediately filled the vehicle. Prince William stepped out first, his military uniform gleaming in the morning light. He turned back to help Kate from the car, his hand steady and supportive as she emerged in her stunning navy blue coat dress. The crowd's cheers grew louder as they recognized the beloved princess, whose fashion choices and graceful manner had made her a style icon around the world. Next came the children, and the crowd's reaction was immediate and heartwarming. Prince George stepped out with newfound confidence, standing tall beside his father and acknowledging the crowd with a mature wave that belied his young age. Princess Charlotte followed, her natural charisma evident as she smiled broadly and waved with both hands, clearly enjoying every moment of the attention. Prince Louis was the last to emerge, and his appearance sent a wave of laughter and affection through the crowd. The 6-year-old prince looked around with wide eyes, taking in the spectacle with the wonder that only a child could feel. When he spotted someone in the crowd holding a sign with his name on it, his face lit up with pure joy and he waved enthusiastically, causing the crowd to cheer even louder. The family stood together for a moment on the red carpet that had been laid out for their arrival. Photographers captured the image that would appear on front pages around the world. A united royal family, confident and graceful, ready to fulfill their duties to the crown and the people. Kate smoothed Charlotte's hair and straightened Louis's collar, while William placed a reassuring hand on George's shoulder. As they began their walk toward the Abbey's entrance, the sounds of the crowd faded into a warm hum of appreciation and respect. Each step brought them closer to the historic ceremony that would celebrate not just the monarchy, but the enduring relationship between the royal family and the British people. The massive oak doors of Westminster Abbey stood open before them, revealing the breathtaking interior that had witnessed centuries of royal history. As the Wales family approached the entrance, the sounds from outside began to fade, replaced by the soft echo of their footsteps on the ancient stone floor. The Abbey was already filled with distinguished guests from around the world, including heads of state, religious leaders, and representatives from every Commonwealth nation. Princess Kate paused for a moment at the threshold, her hand instinctively reaching for Prince Louis's small fingers. The 6-year-old had been chattering excitedly during the car ride, but now his eyes were wide as he took in the soaring ceilings and stained glass windows that painted colorful patterns across the stone walls. The Abbey's grandeur was overwhelming even for adults, and Kate wanted to make sure her youngest son felt secure in this magnificent but intimidating space. Prince William walked ahead slightly, his military training evident in his perfect posture and measured steps. As the future king, he had attended countless ceremonies in this very building, but today felt different. This wasn't just about royal protocol or duty. It was about sharing a piece of their family's legacy with the world and with his own children. He glanced back to make sure his family was comfortable and ready to proceed. The procession down the nave began slowly, allowing everyone present to appreciate this rare moment of seeing the entire Wales family together in such a formal setting. Prince George walked beside his father, his young face serious and focused as he remembered the lessons about proper royal behavior. His resemblance to both his father and his late grandmother, Princess Diana, was striking, and many of the guests found themselves moved by the sight of the next generation of royals taking their place in history. Princess Charlotte moved with natural grace beside her mother, her eyes taking in every detail of the ceremony. She had always been curious about the history and traditions of the royal family, often asking her parents detailed questions about why certain things were done in specific ways. Today she was seeing firsthand how those traditions came to life in one of the most sacred spaces in Britain. The Abbey's choir began to sing as the family made their way toward the altar area, their voices rising to fill the vast space with hauntingly beautiful harmonies. The music had been carefully chosen to represent both the solemnity of the occasion and the hope for the future that the young royal family represented. Kate felt a shiver of emotion as she recognized one of the hymns that had been sung at her own wedding in this same space. As they walked, Kate could see familiar faces in the congregation. There was the Archbishop of Canterbury, who had officiated at their wedding and would play a central role in today's ceremony. There were prime ministers and presidents, but also ordinary citizens who had been chosen to represent their communities. This mixture of high-ranking officials and regular people perfectly captured what the modern monarchy was supposed to represent. Prince Louis, despite his parents' earlier concerns, was behaving beautifully. He walked carefully between his mother and sister, occasionally looking up at the incredible architecture above them. When he spotted the colorful banners hanging from the ceiling, each representing different regions of the Commonwealth, his face lit up with wonder. Kate squeezed his hand gently, proud of how well all three children were handling the pressure of this very public moment. The family reached their designated seats in the front section of the Abbey, where they would have a perfect view of the ceremony, while also being visible to the cameras that were broadcasting the event to millions of people around the world. As they took their places, Prince William helped each of his children get settled, making sure they could see properly and were comfortable for what would be a lengthy ceremony. The moment they sat down, a hush fell over the entire Abbey. Nearly 2,000 people fell silent in anticipation of what was to come. This was more than just a ceremonial event. It was a celebration of the continuity and stability that the royal family represented in an ever-changing world. The presence of the Wales family, representing both the current generation and the future of the monarchy, gave the ceremony a special significance that everyone present could feel. Kate looked around at her family, all of them now settled and ready for the historic ceremony to begin. In just a few minutes, they would witness moments that would be remembered and studied for generations to come, and they were honored to be not just observers, but active participants in this incredible piece of living history. The ceremony began with a fanfare of trumpets that echoed through Westminster Abbey's ancient walls, causing Prince Louis to sit up straighter in his seat with excitement. The sound was magnificent and powerful, filling every corner of the sacred space and announcing to everyone present that they were about to witness something truly extraordinary. Princess Kate felt her heart racing as she remembered her own wedding day in this same space, when those same trumpets had marked the beginning of her new life as a member of the royal family. King Charles entered the Abbey with all the dignity and grace that his years of preparation had given him. Even though he had been king for several years now, there was something especially moving about seeing him in this historic setting, surrounded by the symbols and traditions that connected him to centuries of British monarchs. Prince William watched his father with deep respect and perhaps a touch of the weight that he himself would one day carry. The Archbishop of Canterbury stepped forward to begin the formal proceedings, his voice carrying clearly through the Abbey's perfect acoustics. He spoke about the importance of service, duty, and the bond between the royal family and the people of Britain and the Commonwealth. His words were carefully chosen to honor the past while acknowledging the challenges and opportunities of the modern world. Princess Charlotte listened intently to every word, her young mind absorbing the significance of what was happening around her. She had always been interested in her family's history, and now she was experiencing it firsthand. When the Archbishop spoke about the role of young people in carrying forward the values of service and dedication, Charlotte seemed to understand that he was speaking partly to her and her brothers. The ceremony included readings from various religious texts and speeches by distinguished guests, each one adding to the solemnity and importance of the occasion. Prince George sat perfectly still throughout, his behavior showing a maturity that impressed everyone who saw him. He had clearly taken his parents' lessons about royal responsibility to heart, understanding that his conduct reflected not just on himself but on his entire family. During one particularly moving moment, when the choir sang a hymn that Princess Diana had loved, Kate felt tears forming in her eyes. She thought about how proud Diana would have been to see her grandsons taking their place in royal history, and how much she would have enjoyed getting to know Princess Charlotte. William seemed to sense his wife's emotions and reached over to briefly touch her hand, a small gesture of comfort and understanding. The highlight of the ceremony came when each member of the royal family was invited to participate in a special blessing. King Charles was first, followed by other senior members of the family. When it came time for Prince William and his family to approach the altar, the entire abbey seemed to hold its breath. This was the moment that many had been waiting for, the chance to see the future of the monarchy step forward together. Prince William led his family toward the altar with quiet confidence, his children following close behind. Princess Kate walked with perfect poise, her presence adding grace and warmth to the formal proceedings. The sight of the entire Wales family together in this sacred space was deeply moving for everyone present, representing both continuity and hope for the future. As they knelt at the altar for the blessing, cameras captured images that would become iconic representations of this historic day. The three children knelt between their parents, their heads bowed respectfully as the Archbishop offered prayers for their future service to the nation. Prince Louis, despite his young age, seemed to understand the importance of the moment and remained perfectly still and quiet. The blessing included special prayers for the young princes and princess, asking for wisdom, strength, and dedication as they grew into their roles within the royal family. The Archbishop's words seemed to float through the abbey, touching everyone present with their sincerity and hope. When the family rose and returned to their seats, there was a sense that something profound had just taken place. The ceremony continued with additional readings and musical performances, but the participation of the Wales family had clearly been the emotional centerpiece of the entire event. Their presence had transformed what could have been simply a formal occasion into something much more personal and meaningful, connecting the ancient traditions of the monarchy with the very real and relatable family that would carry those traditions into the future. As the formal ceremony drew to a close, the atmosphere in Westminster Abbey began to shift from solemn reverence to celebration and joy. The final hymn filled the sacred space with uplifting music that seemed to lift everyone's spirits and mark the transition from ceremony to celebration. Princess Kate could see the relief and happiness on her children's faces as they realized they had successfully completed their part in this historic event. The recessional began with King Charles and the senior members of the royal family, followed by distinguished guests and dignitaries. When it came time for the Wales family to make their exit, Prince William took Princess Kate's arm while keeping a watchful eye on their children. The procession down the nave would give everyone in the abbey one final chance to see the family together, and they wanted to make sure this last impression was as positive as their entrance had been. Princess Charlotte walked beside her mother with renewed confidence, having successfully navigated her first major royal ceremony. She waved to some of the guests she recognized, including family, friends, and dignitaries who had visited Kensington Palace in the past. Her natural warmth and charm were evident to everyone watching, and many observers noted how much she resembled her late grandmother, Princess Diana, in her ability to connect with people. Prince George maintained his serious demeanor as they walked, but there was a slight smile on his face that suggested he was proud of how well the day had gone. At 11 years old, he was beginning to understand more fully what his future role would entail, and today had given him a glimpse of the kind of ceremonies he would one day lead. His behavior throughout the event had shown remarkable maturity and poise. Prince Louis, meanwhile, was clearly ready for the formal part of the day to be over. While he had been wonderfully well-behaved during the ceremony, his 6-year-old energy was starting to show as he walked a bit more quickly than the rest of his family, eager to reach the doors and the less formal environment outside. Kate gently guided him to maintain the proper pace, but she couldn't help smiling at his enthusiasm. As they approached the abbey's entrance, the family could hear the roar of the crowd outside, who had been waiting patiently throughout the ceremony for another glimpse of the royals. The sound was both exciting and slightly overwhelming, a reminder of the intense public interest in everything the royal family did. Prince William straightened his shoulders and prepared to step back into the spotlight. The moment they emerged from the Abbey, the crowd's cheers reached a crescendo that could probably be heard for miles around. The family paused at the top of the steps, allowing the photographers to capture the moment and giving the crowd a chance to see them clearly. The sight of the Wales family together, having successfully completed this important ceremony, clearly meant a great deal to the thousands of people who had gathered to witness this historic day. Princess Kate waved to the crowd with genuine warmth, her smile reflecting both relief that the ceremony had gone well and genuine appreciation for the support they had received. She had learned over the years that these public moments were about more than just royal protocol. They were opportunities to connect with the people and show gratitude for their loyalty and affection. The children each handled the crowd's attention in their own way. Princess Charlotte waved enthusiastically, clearly enjoying the positive energy from the crowd. Prince George waved more formally but with obvious pleasure at the crowd's response. Prince Louis looked around in wonder at the sea of faces and flags, pointing out things that caught his attention to his parents. As they prepared to descend the steps toward their waiting cars, Prince William took a moment to speak briefly with some of the officials who had helped organize the event. His conversations were quick but warm, showing his appreciation for all the work that had gone into making the day such a success. Kate used the opportunity to make sure the children were ready. For the next phase of their public appearance, the walk down the Abbey steps was carefully paced to allow for maximum interaction with the crowd and optimal photo opportunities for the media. Each step brought them closer to the end of this historic day, but also toward the beginning of the next chapter in their royal duties. The success of today's ceremony would be remembered for years to come, and the Wales family had played their part to perfection. As they reached the bottom of the steps, the family knew that their public duties for the day were nearly complete. Soon they would be able to return home and reflect on this extraordinary experience as a family, sharing their thoughts and feelings about being part of such an important piece of British history. The royal convoy pulled away from Westminster Abbey as the sun broke through the London clouds, casting everything in a golden light that seemed perfect for the end of such a momentous day. Inside their car, the Wales family finally allowed themselves to relax after hours of being in the public eye. The children's formal posture gave way to more natural positions as they settled in for the drive back to Kensington Palace. Princess Charlotte was the first to break the quiet, her excitement bubbling over as she began recounting her favorite moments from the ceremony. She talked about the beautiful music, the colorful stained glass windows, and how important she had felt walking down the aisle of such a historic place. Her enthusiasm was infectious, and soon Prince Louis was chiming in with his own observations, including his fascination with the trumpeters and the way their music had echoed through the Abbey. Prince George, who had maintained such serious composure throughout the public parts of the day, finally allowed himself to smile more freely. He told his parents how proud he felt to be part of the ceremony, and how he had tried to remember everything his father had taught him about representing the royal family with dignity. His maturity and thoughtfulness impressed both William and Kate, who exchanged a meaningful look over their son's head. Prince William loosened his tie slightly and reflected on how perfectly the day had gone. Every aspect of the ceremony had proceeded smoothly, from their arrival at the Abbey to the final moments on the steps. More importantly, his children had handled their first major royal ceremony with grace and poise that would make any parent proud. He felt confident that they were growing into their roles with the right balance of seriousness and naturalness. Princess Kate removed her formal shoes and rubbed her feet, smiling at the relief of being done with the public part of the day. She thought about how different this experience had been from her wedding day in the same Abbey 14 years earlier. Then, she had been nervous about her new role and uncertain about how she would handle the pressure. Today she had felt confident and comfortable, able to focus on supporting her children and enjoying the significance of the moment. As they drove through the streets of London, they could see that people were still celebrating. Union Jack flags hung from windows, and groups of tourists and locals alike were still gathered in areas where they hoped to catch another glimpse of the royal family. The outpouring of affection and respect from the public had been overwhelming throughout the day, and it reminded the family of the special relationship they shared with the British people. The conversation in the car turned to their favorite memories from the day. Kate mentioned how moving it had been to see all three children participating so beautifully in such an important ceremony. William talked about the pride he felt watching his father lead the ceremony and thinking about the continuity of the monarchy through the generations. Each family member had their own perspective on what had made the day special. When they arrived back at Kensington Palace, the family was greeted by their staff, who had been watching the ceremony on television and were eager to congratulate them on how well everything had gone. The children immediately began sharing their experiences with their nanny and other familiar faces, their excitement evident as they described the grandeur of the Abbey and the size of the crowds. As the afternoon turned to evening, the family gathered in their private sitting room to watch news coverage of the day's events. They saw themselves on television looking polished and professional, but more importantly, they saw the positive reaction from commentators and the public. Social media was full of praise for how the children had behaved and how the entire family had represented the monarchy with dignity and warmth. The day ended with a quiet family dinner, where they could finally talk openly about their experiences without worrying about being overheard or photographed. Prince Louis fell asleep at the table, exhausted by the excitement and new experiences of the day. Princess Charlotte continued to chatter about everything she had seen and learned, while Prince George asked thoughtful questions about the history and significance of the ceremony. As Princess Kate tucked the children into bed that night, each one expressed how much they had enjoyed being part of such an important day. They had successfully completed their first major royal ceremony as a complete family, and the experience had brought them closer together, while also preparing them for the many public duties that lay ahead in their future. Prince William and Kate spent the last few minutes of the day reviewing the events and talking about how proud they were of their children. The day had been a perfect example of how the modern royal family could honor tradition while also being relatable and genuine. Tomorrow would bring new challenges and responsibilities, but tonight they could rest knowing they had given the British people a ceremony they would remember forever.